Hello everyone and welcome to another edition of the SilverFox. Spawning in the top left corner, playing with the red Terran pieces, we have the real Quaid. And spawning in the bottom right corner with a snarky GL, we have Faystix. Now my opponent, with this response, it garners some thought, but it makes me think that he is telling me good luck in the snarkiest way possible. Not good luck, I wish you good luck, but more like, good luck, buddy, you're going down. Which I can sort of appreciate. Now, I'm trying something a little different on this build. I decide to wall off my natural. Typically, I wall off my main at the ramp. Obviously, fighting up a ramp is quite difficult in Starcraft 2, which gives you an added advantage of the vision. But after watching GSL versus the world and how quickly those players take their natural base, Terran players take it after building one supply depot and one barracks. But I'm not that good. I am in Silver League, so I am a little more cautious. So what I opted for was to build a wall down here to make it a little safer against run-by attacks, since they're pretty common. My opponent is going for a 2 gateway into the cybernetics core, so most likely going to see stalkers. At this point, I obviously don't know that, but I know that getting an economy up as quick as possible would be nice. Things to watch out for on this map, obviously oracles. In GSL, I noticed the Protoss are using heavy warp prism play. That unit is becoming very prevalent in StarCraft 2 ladder matches. As a result, Terran and Zerg should be very wary of any shadow in their base. This one and Dreamcatcher have some pretty big shadows where things can land. So it's probably a good idea if my next matchup on this, I build a supply depot over here when I get stable. I have a couple Marines in here. Bunker's a nice thing to have in front of your base if you're planning on not going for an all-in quickly. I was a little late on my second CC. You could see I had too many minerals, but that's okay because I'm planning on expanding anyway, so I can just build in parallel here. A little bit behind. I wasn't going for a timing drop. I kind of decided later to drop. I did some pretty bad micro that you'll get to see here in a little bit, but overall I felt like the drop was pretty effective. This beginning of this match is pretty standard. I didn't show you my Reaper when he was over here, but I didn't see too much. I was hit by these stalkers pretty quickly and lost them. But I did know that he had stalkers, so I knew that I had to get tanks. Tanks hard counter stalkers, if you didn't know. That probably should have been a starport, so I've got my starport coming up right now. I'm enjoying doing these 2 medevac, 2 tank, 8 marine drops lately. They seem to be pretty effective. So the idea is that after you have some sort of defense at home, that you build a couple of tanks, 8 marines, and 2 medevacs. You boost over and go for it. But even having 1 tank out in a wall with a bunker, there's no way that these stalkers are going to break through. Even though my tank's not sieged yet, as soon as he gets sieged, they're going to be forced to run. And now I have a second tank out. There's nothing he can do. And now I have my second command center out. I didn't get supply blocked, which is great. it would have been smart to build my supply depot over in this corner. So my opponent's deciding to mass up a bit in front of my base. Finally gets a second nexus down. I guess he saw that I had built up 2 robotics facilities, so we had 2 mortals and observers coming in. But you can see his economy just is not doing that great off one base. So he finally has a second nexus up. I could have probably pushed with what I had here if I got the medevacs out fast enough. 3 tanks and a handful of marines will take this out very easily. But again, I wasn't in any rush, and that could be a deadly mistake against Protoss. Once they get their Golden Armada up, or their Ball of Death, or they see that you have Marines or anything like that, you could be in big trouble. Their splash damage is fantastic. So I built a turret here because typically DT warping could really hurt, and or observers like to sit out in front of the base. Similar to how Terrans like to scan the natural of the opponent. Because typically people rally their units here. It's nice to stick an observer there for the Protoss, but if you know that, then you just build a turret and they can't stick their observer there. So at this point, I'm pretty fortified up front. It'd probably be prudent to see some Stargates coming up, and that's exactly what we see from my opponent. So he gets it. He understands that this isn't going to work. Now he is going to juggle some Immortals in my base, which is, oh man, that's such a great strategy. Haas just was doing something similar in GSL versus the world, and I saw Loco put a video out the other day showing his attempt at it. I think that's going to become the new gold standard. So one defense against that is walling off your front so that your opponent can't get in there and make shield batteries. But if you can get in here with a couple of mortals, you know, you're in trouble. At this point, I just have to all army, and I don't have much. Luckily, my opponent gets scared off by my 1 Marine. I'm not really sure why he ran from that. I think he was trying to be clever, but it didn't really work out for him. So I had 2 medevacs fully loaded, and I was getting ready to drop on him, but I brought him back home for some defense. He really got spooked by 1 Marine. I think that's pretty funny. So now I have a tank and a Marine, so any kind of drop harass is going to have at least, you know, they're going to have to take at least, 70 damage right off the bat. Which, if you can get 2 or 3 shots off, might not be too bad. So now that harass seems to have stopped, and I got a couple turrets for defense against the drop, I decided to go drop again. See that this guy is just going to come back around the other side. He's cautiously going around my sensor tower. This time he's dropping where a lot of military is bulked up. He also didn't do a very good job protecting his war prison. Once again, I'm forced to turn around with my drop because I don't really have enough to take on this, and especially if he's going to juggle. But he's cautious. So at this point, I'm kind of risking things, even dropping this many units at close to the 10-minute mark. Like there's a good chance that he's already got several units up for defense, and it's probably not a good idea. But Gotta try. Now I have a couple turrets up, some tanks for defense, and continuously making units here. Got a bunch of idle probes. It's kind of interesting. So he was scouting me with those drops. I'm not sure if he was a juggler with the Warp Prism or not, but he wanted to see what I had, and now he's got Tempest out. So Tempest, if you don't know, kickback from long range. And this is why this drop is sort of dangerous at this late in the game. But I do get to shut both of these facilities down, which is nice. Do I get a Warp Prism here? Or Void Ray? No, I don't. I lose everything. But it still slowed him down, which is great. Because it allowed me to speed up. But here he comes, across the map. Which is the right move in his part. I immediately switch over to building a couple of Vikings. Vikings are a fantastic counter against Protoss air, or any air for that matter. Afraid of my turret. The Tempests fire very slowly. And Stim Marines are very good against slow firing air units. Recall is called. After I get one more. Then again, brings out Observer. That was, well, he should have stayed there with his Observer. That was pretty smart. At this point, he's currently boosting out some more Void Rays. Keeping expensive units queued up in your tab isn't a good idea, though, especially if you want to expand. So it sucks all your money up. I'm guilty of it as well. But now that I have 3 starports, I can get these cost-effective units, known as the Viking, out quite quickly. The Viking is extremely cheap. 150 gas, or 150 minerals, 75 gas, and 2 supply. But their attack range is I think it used to be 11. I guess it's 9 now. 9 is still pretty good. Researching those upgrades too. My opponent does not have any upgrades, but I think he may be researching them. Actually, I don't see a forge. Oh, there it is. So yeah, I don't see him doing anything. Yeah. This is a pretty formidable force. Not at the 13-minute mark, but I'd say if he had this out at the 10-minute mark and was marching over to my base, I'd be in some trouble. I have some Marines and medevacs, but all my forces on this side. And he sees it. There's that Observer. There's my idle. And I guess he decides to come over and fight me instead, which I think is kind of interesting. He's in my sensor tower range. I know he's there. He's afraid of my Vikings, which I don't blame him. They're fantastic units. Their cost effectiveness is absolutely unbelievable. Another thing that I would like to get better at with playing against Protoss is getting the Ghost out a little bit earlier. EMPs just destroy Protoss. I mean, 150 shields gone. That Tempest is almost. I mean, 300 hit points is still a lot, but if you take down 150 of their shields, that's. I mean, you need 1/3 as many Vikings to kill it in one shot. So every time I'm playing against Protoss, I'm going to make sure that I get ghosts. I don't do it this game, and you can see how much energy I had stored up on my command centers, not dropping mules. But man, these things are amazing, especially when you have a new fresh base and these fresh, juicy mineral patches come out. My goodness, look at my income just crank. Hopefully I'm building as much as I should be. 47 SCVs. He has 50, so our SCV and probe count is pretty evenly matched. You can see that I can tell he's afraid of my Vikings, so it's a good idea to make some more. So he's got +1 attack now. I'm sitting at 1/1 on my Vikings. And 1/1 on the Marines, and 1/1 on my tanks. Not too bad as far as upgrades go. These tanks go down rather quickly. It's tempting to sit back and have only 2 Stargates, but when a Void Ray is 100 more minerals and 75 more gas, you should have more of these on 3 or 4 bases. He has his 5th Nexus starting up now. You need more Stargates. You should have at least 2 Stargates per Nexus at a minimum. I'm kind of breaking my own rule, but with the reactor making 2 units per, it's effectively the same thing. I have 3 bases, so I have 6 units coming out at the same time. You have to scale up as the game increases in time. Now we're headed towards the late game. I should probably start thinking about getting something a little bit more strong, a little stronger than this composition that I have here, but it seems to be working. I was a little late with the stem on the Marines, and it cost me. I ended up losing this engagement pretty badly until I dropped my Vikings. Landed Vikings are actually nice in a pinch. So I'll have to land him again. But watch how they take out these probes. It's amazing. Because they're mechanical. And the Gatling guns on the landed Vikings, they do bonus damage against mechanical. So at this point I realize I'm not going to win this. I'm not going to get anywhere with this. I'm just going to lose all my air, especially against those stalkers. Luckily he doesn't have blink. Otherwise I think I would have been dead. So at this point I figure I just got to call everybody back. Because he's coming for the counter. This position on this and in Lost and Found, I feel like it's very similar. Holding this position is tricky. Expanding to here feels less natural, but you have better defense because you could swing your defense around here and cover your flank, and then you just have this one opening to watch for. Whereas here you have 1, 2, 3 openings to cover. See quite often in the pro games they'll bust these rocks down. And you can see how timid my opponent is. He basically had me on the ropes there, but he backed off. He saw the tanks. So all I do is repair this CC. Luckily I got it saved. I got my main floating because I'm mined out here. My opponent, I don't think he has the catapult upgrade. He needs to have this because shooting out these interceptors one at a time, they basically just fall down to the Marines. Stimmed Marines will just pick them off as they come out. And at 50 gas per or $15 per interceptor, it's not cost effective to fight with those units. It's almost like a necessity. And it's nice because it slows down the carrier a little bit because it can be such a very powerful unit. I've lost many games to the Golden Armada. And it looks like he just got that upgrade, so he might have been waiting for that. Unsieged tanks. It's nice in big groups like that. And I do get this carrier. It's a nice pickup. Because your splash damage can really mess you up, especially when you have charged lots coming in. Again, the mules, and there's nothing. You can't say too many great things about orbital commands. They really can save you. At this point, my opponent's in a pretty good position to take a 6th base. I'm still sitting here on, well, let's call it 1.5. Not very good as far as income, but you see my opponent, he spent all his money on units, and he's up to 56 probes, but he only has 2 immortals and 2 carriers against my 10 siege tanks and 36 marines. So I just land that CC. Do I drop my mules here? I can't remember if I drop my mules. I think at this point it's like try to balance the load. He's still making zealots, which I think is interesting because they're not really working for him. They kind of seem to be running to their death. He does have +1 attack. I think at this point my Marines have +2 attack, so it's kind of a mismatch. Now, careful when you micro your Vikings and make sure to target fire those carriers because they'll just sit there and shoot at interceptors like idiots all day long. You don't want to do that. These immortals, man, they are so strong. Here comes the stem. You can see they're just slicing through these zealots. And that was it. He gave up. I think it's because he didn't switch into having Stargates fast enough. He didn't have enough production. So he had that game. I should have lost that game, but you know, he had it. Anyway, thanks for watching. Go ahead and leave a comment if you have any, and I'll see you in the next one.